All right, it's time to talk about week 2. So, of course, your assignments are open Sunday through Saturday. I'm checking myself right now to make sure dates are proper. And even though you have until Saturday to get these done, you need to get in here and get started early, especially if you need help from me for any reason. So the first thing I'm going to say is that you do need your textbook. If for some reason you do not have your textbook, like if the bookstore or the school or whatever it is has been delayed, please reach out to me. I can get you a photocopy of this first reading, and so that you won't be without. But I do need to know because I have no idea what the status is for you guys on the textbooks. So send me a course mail letting me know if you need a textbook or not. So the first list here are the quizzes for these different sections in a writer's reference. We have C1, C2, C3, C4. I am not going to provide a very structured lecture over this. I can tell you that C1 deals with how you get into a writing project, how you brainstorm, you consider your purpose, you consider your audience, how you work on a working thesis, if you will, and plan out your paper. Then you go to C2. C2 is about the actual writing, getting the writing going, including the types of paragraphs that exist in any given writing assignment. I will tell you that C3 kind of segues slightly, because it's focused on specific types of paragraphs. So the information regarding paragraph cohesiveness and unity is super important here, but you can also pay attention to the different types of paragraphs that are listed in C3E, because we are going to be living in narration and description for the first several weeks of class. We will ultimately get into comparison and contrast there towards midterm. So pay attention to the types of the different modes of paragraphs, because that will apply to what we're working on. And then C4 is all about reviewing, revising, editing. So that's our big discussion this week, is the importance of revision. So pay close attention to these concepts, especially in C4. I will tell you that the sample essay from Win right here, that's in C4. So see, these sections are really important this week. So if you do not have your book, you have to reach out to me so that I can get you a copy of these sections. So, of course, guys, on quizzes, you can't go, these are timed. So once you start on them, you have to finish them in that setting. And you can see all of my quizzes are super low risk. I'm just trying to get you to access your book, understand the different sections that are available, understand that information that's available to you. So super low risk. Of course, you can use your book when you take the quizzes. But make sure you have good internet, that your laptop or Chromebook is entirely powered up, and that you have time to complete it, because starting in week 2, there's no going back. There's no makeup or anything like that. Week 1, I've reset a bunch of quizzes. I've allowed you to fix issues. That doesn't happen anymore after week 1. You should be able to figure out what it is you need to do to be completely successful. Now, having said all that, sometimes things happen that are bizarre or whatever. Okay, but I'm asking you right now to be prepared before you start these quizzes. Full charge on your computers, good, reliable internet access, and know that you have to complete it in that one setting because you can't go back to it. Now, we are still sticking with the C section, C1 through C4, and specifically C4. So this is called a revision discussion. I'm going to remind you that when it comes to our discussion boards, I might jump in and say a little bit throughout the week, but the bulk of my feedback to you on these discussion boards will come the following week. Everything that we do builds on each other. So I will give you feedback the following week in a video. I'll point all that out next week. There's no sense in getting into it just yet. But I did want to remind you that you won't really see a whole lot from me on the front end. This is your opportunity to share your ideas. You are welcome to interact with your peers. And right here I say you don't have to reply to peers, but of course you can, and of course you should come back and revisit it. So for this discussion, I really want you to have a good handle of Section C4 on reviewing, revising, and editing. And then I want you to read Anne Lamott's Shitty First Drafts. Now I know, oh, there's a curse word, whatever. You don't ever have to say it, and you don't have to even write it out, because that's not what the question is. I want you to explain in your own words, after studying these two pieces, what does it mean to revise and why is that so important? Okay, so if you'll click this link here, it'll open up a new tab and bring you, it's a fairly short read. You do not have to answer these questions here like anywhere for me, but you can read them and consider them. Yeah, read this little, I call anything by authors articles. Yes, this is basically an essay that appeared in a Comp1 book back in the day. But to distinguish between our work, students' work, and professional work, I kind of go back and forth with calling them articles and essays. Just try to hang on. I'll try to make it as clear as possible. All right, so you'll hit reply, and I have at least 50 words in length. This is a fairly short, question. It doesn't take a lot. But now let me say this. You won't see anybody else's post until you've posted. That's how we keep from cheating and using other people's ideas. You must have at least 100 characters, so 100 words or spaces, letters or spaces for you to be for it to work. So just keep that in mind. Your response needs to be a decent length. Okay. Next is our proofreading practice for week 2. So I have some instructions on this particular discussion thread that I won't continue to repost, because once you get the hang of it, you should know what you're doing. It says, read the following passage and see if you can find the various mistakes. Hit reply to this post and explain one error you found and give the essay error code for that error. And the list is in the resource bank I'm going to show you. To do this, copy and paste the sentence that you are identifying and then explain the error and where it exists. To earn full credit, you must include, you must include the number code. Your response must be at least 100 characters so that you'll be able to see your others' post. You do not have to reply to other students. However, you should return to the DB later to fully understand the various issues that exist in the paragraph. Your final exam in this class will require you to identify proofreading issues. So again, this is another case in which I will come back after the fact and we'll go over all the issues that existed and the codes for them, and and I'll show you how to fix everything. Okay, let's talk about the codes before I even show you the examples. So over here in the activities, you always have a resource bank for any given week. So here's your week 2 resource bank, and right at the top you'll see essay error codes 24. All right, so you're going to need to open up that document. It will open. Okay. So this is the full document. If you can, I would print this. That will be much easier to have it in paper in your notebook right along with your course schedule. So this is a system I've developed some time ago, and I have gotten even more specific with it. So we have 2 different things going on in writing. We have that content piece, the information piece, and then we have what we call mechanics. So you won't be really messing with this first page too much. It will come in more whenever you are getting feedback on your essays. Really, the number 1 page you need to pay attention to is this page 2. And when you see these codes here, these are the codes I'm talking about. And so, for instance, if you had a compound sentence and you didn't put a comma where you needed to, you would get a 57A as your code. Okay. If somewhere you've put a comma, but you don't need that comma, you would put a 57E. Now, this is where your textbook comes in. Going forward, you guys are going to be working on cleaning up your own issues, figuring out what it is that you are weak in, and studying those. So when you get codes in your essays, it's going to send you back to sections in our textbook. All right. So this first week might be slightly challenging just because you can't check yourself against, if you're right or not on the code, because I'm not giving copies of the entire book to people. But it's not, it's low risk, low points. I think that you'll be able to see at least enough errors to get your credit and move on. But this is why it's important to hurry up and get your book as soon as you can. So those are what we call the essay error codes. Have them nearby. Let me show you what this is going to look like in the actual discussion. Do it this way. Okay. So this is your paragraph for this week, and I'll let you take a look at that. But here's our little example. If our original sentence said the Florida Panthers hockey team has been a competitive force in the NHL, often surprising fans with their outstanding performances. There are 3 obvious errors in this one sentence, but you only have to tell me one error, okay? If you want to tell more, fine, but the rules are just one. So, if that's a sentence in the paragraph that you wanted to work with, you would copy and paste. You would hit reply and copy and paste that sentence, and then you would explain. So the first example is, this sentence includes a code 59. Panthers should be capitalized because it's part of a proper noun, Florida Panthers. All right? So that's what a student answer would look like right there. All right? Here's another student answer. Copy that sentence again and then explain. This sentence includes a code 51 spelling error. The correct spelling is competitive, so competitive is misspelled there. Or, copy that sentence again. This sentence includes a code 51 or 52, depending on how you interpret the use of there. The correct form of the word is there. And go back and get that essay error code so you can see the different codes that were marked today. So again, page 2 is our number 1, page here. There's that capitalization error. And if we wanted to study on capitalization, we'd go to P8. Spelling error here. And I tell you, go to the dictionary or Google or W1 has some spelling issues. And then 52, the word THERE is a place, right? So it's technically the wrong word is used. Then also see it says we've used the inaccurate homophone, right? So it's a spelling homophone issue. All right, so I look forward to this. This is part of that little, it's not hard, but it's part of that overall theory that we are dealing with a lot of pros, a lot of issues concerning writing, and this is just one of them. When you've finished when you've done the proofreading practice, it's time we're going to discuss essays nearly every week, okay? So to be good writers, we need to read good writing. And the first one we're going to read is from our textbook. So again, this is why you need a copy of C4, in C1, C2, C3. We're going to read the essay titled A Place to Begin by Michelle Wynn. She is a student. This is a student essay. And it says, and then I'll tell you, I would also read the rough draft because this is going to help you envision what it looks like, what the writing process looks like. The first draft, the peers' review on that draft, and then the student's final draft, okay? So again, you're not going to be seeing anyone else's post until you post. You're going to hit reply to mine, and then answer these questions thoroughly. What is the main idea or guiding theme of Wynn's essay? What tools, methods does she use in the essay to help her audience visualize the action? What changes did she make from the rough draft to the final draft to make the essay more visual for her audience? And what are your overall feelings or impression of this narrative essay? So a lot of this is just coming from your heart, your gut, what you thought about it. It's so important to get in and do all of this work leading up to this early because you have your own essay to write this week. And as you are analyzing Wynn's essay, think about how you can include some of your ideas into your own essay. Finally, we have our first personal essay rough draft. let me show you a couple things before we look at the actual assignment. So in the resource bank, I have provided textbook information on both narration and description. And then I have provided the rubric that I'll be using to grade your final draft. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is narration. And this is telling a story. Okay, so lots of information here. Again, I'm not going to necessarily have a lecture at this point. We obviously are going to talk a lot about narration and description over the next several weeks. I will point out that a narrative is a little bit different than a really structured academic essay, in that the thesis statement doesn't necessarily appear explicitly right away. Sometimes it's implicit or it's somewhere else in the story. All right, so I do want you to read over narration so that you can just simply understand what it is well. Always think about the 5 W's and the H, right, as you're writing anything. Think about your structure. Especially think about what it looks like for in medias res, where you're starting like with a scene that happens later in the story. You start with that, and then you kind of go back and like lay out how you got to that point. Notice that it includes a lot of description along the way, but I also have a section on description for you specifically. So the little examples here, it says student case study, a police log. You can read over that and get some ideas. And just keep in mind that, you know, writing is so important. Like, it doesn't matter what your future career is. Most careers have some element of writing, whether it's sending emails to your boss or filling out a police report or something. You know, you have to do some writing. So this is all good practice for you. Narration is our primary mode, because that's what personal essays are. But we want to make sure we're also including description. So a description is literally that. We are describing, and I want you to think about it like this. I want you to show the scenes. I want you to show the action. I want your reader to be able to imagine the exact scene because you have described it so well. Okay? So again, read over the information about description, and of course, as we go forward with our sample essays and reading each other's work, we are really going to pay attention to how descriptive our writing is. Last in the resource bank this week is your rubric. So we'll be using this rubric, this specific one, for the first 2 essays. The third essay might get a little bit of a modification because it's compare-contrast also. But this is what I'll use to grade, and I'll remind you that I told you in the syllabus that I like to use words and symbols instead of numbers when it comes to the individual criteria. So, introduction is well developed, engages the reader, and creates interest when appropriate background information is included. So we'll talk about, you know, how you make it interesting for your reader. I don't want to read all this to you. You can read it, but just think about the fact that while these are essays, they do have story elements in them because we want to show the story. We want to show the action instead of just telling. And really, here's one of my favorite criteria in all of my essay rubrics. The essay answers any questions a college-level reader may have about the topic. If I'm stumped, if I can't figure something out, if there are holes in your narrative, then that's a problem. Okay? We have good organization and transition. You're using good, strong words. Your sentences are grammatical and expressive, right? Minimal errors. And you follow the assignment instructions, because for whatever reason, sometimes students don't do that. I do grade holistically based on how you've met the above criteria. All right, so that's your resource bank for week 2. Let's look at the essay assignment. So, of course, this is your first draft that you're submitting to me. Hopefully, you know, you might have a draft that you scratched out with pen or pencil. You might have a couple different drafts that you typed and wrote, but you kept messing with it. That's fine. That's all revision. This one is the first draft I'm seeing. we call it PN1 for short. You have 2 things to choose from. Write a short, detailed narrative about something that you experienced or observed as a child. Write a short, detailed narrative about a person you know. Use dialogue, setting, action, and other details to show this person to your reader. There's that word show again. I recommend that you study C1 closely and use some of those suggestions in that section to get your brain going on this. A good practice is to do some free writing. Just think about what it is you're writing about and do some free writing for 5 minutes or so. See what comes up for you, especially on the child one or even on the person one. So this is a relatively short paper. I want to start short, but we stay pretty short because it doesn't take 10 pages for me to know whether you can write or not. Okay, so our papers are around 2 pages. And because of the types of papers they are. They're not designed to be super long. The paper should be properly formatted per MLA guidelines and 1 to 2 pages in length. So this is the only time it's going to, well, yeah, it's the only time it's going to say 1 there, I think. Keep it short, focus on specific details that paint the picture for your audience. And as a reminder, process work is required. So you must submit this rough draft and then participate in next week's peer review in order to receive credit for the final draft. I have gone ahead and linked that same old rubric here, and you have the 2 videos depending on what type of Microsoft Office you're using to remind you how to set your paper up. The same policies regarding the Chromebook stuff where you download and it's in your downloads folder and then you upload and then you download. All that is the same for this as well. So that ends week 2, and let me reiterate a couple things. Number 1, make sure that you get in early in the week and start working on this stuff. Do not wait until Saturday night because it just will not be as meaningful. You'll be rushing, all that. And don't forget, you're going to have people looking at your paper next week. So if you need to change names or anything, that's fine, but it should be nonfiction. It should be something that actually, that you're writing from your lived experience. And let me say this, the trial time is over with. So this is week 2. Make sure that when you submit your essay, it's what you think you're submitting. I have told a few people, if you are a Chromebook user, Office.com user, when you go back and open your submission, it may not look great right then. Like somehow the view window distorts formatting. And so I say, well, you'd have to upload it back to Office.com to see it fully, you know. But here's the most important thing about that. If that's your essay that you see, then you're probably on the right track, right? As long as you are setting it up properly, it's going to come to me properly. So make sure you are checking your submissions, and if for some reason it's wrong, immediately send me a course mail. I will not accept any course mails for messed up submissions after the due date. If they have to come in by August 31st, this is on you. This is absolutely on you to check your submission. And it should be, I'll just use this week's as an example. Underneath the assignment, maybe before the resources, there will be a little box that will say open my submission. And that's what you click, fully open it, and then you can see whether you've got the right thing turned in or not. If you see something blank, it's not the right thing. Okay, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. The earlier the better. And good luck. I'm really excited about getting into this study with you. Thanks.